Finally getting around to doing the birth story. My birth experience with little Aurora, baby number 6. Good evening everyone, welcome to today's video. As I just said, I'm finally getting around to filming a little sit down, chitty chatty video about my birth experience, a few questions you guys have been asking, how I'm recovering post C-section, how I'm feeling about having my tubes tied, and a whole bunch of questions basically. And just, I haven't planned anything. I've got no points on what I want to speak on. I've not thought about this at all. I'm basically just sitting down and we're just gonna chat through it together. Very quick backstory. I've had natural deliveries with all 5 of my children, and then I needed a C-section with Aurora due to a cyst that was causing a few medical issues, which meant it would have been, in my eyes, less stressful and less worrying to have a caesarean section. So first, I think I really should do pinpoints, because otherwise I start waffling in a jumbled up order, but there we go. So once I'd made the decision to have the caesarean section with Aurora, I felt so much better. I genuinely felt like a massive weight had been lifted. I could stop worrying about everything, and I kind of knew that I knew how my labour was going to be. Obviously, you get a date given, and my date was given for 39 weeks and 5 days. That made me a little bit anxious, not gonna lie, because baby number 5, Mila, she was born before that, naturally. So I was a bit worried, but thankfully baby girl stayed put. And on the 11th of October, me and Chris headed into the hospital to have my scheduled caesarean section. Now, overall, people keep saying, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the natural delivery, or do you prefer having a caesarean? I genuinely can't answer. I feel like most people have an answer for that, like I definitely preferred the caesarean, or I definitely preferred the natural. I genuinely can't answer that question, because I found them both equally as painful. I'd say I found them both equally as painful and both equally as beautiful, except it was kind of in the opposite direction. Opposite. So for example, when you have a natural delivery, you get the pain right away through contractions and delivering your baby. And then you get the beautifulness of having your baby. Whereas with the caesarean section, you get the beautifulness first. So you get the beautifulness of having your baby, and then you get the pain afterwards. So I don't feel like anyone's easier or better than the other one. I just feel like they're the opposite. So it's easier to give birth naturally after, like post-delivery, but it's very difficult when you're actually in labour. And then the opposite side, it's very easy to give birth via caesarean because you're numb and you're just laid on the bed, but then afterwards the delivery is difficult. So for me, the caesarean recovery was kind of harder and easier than I was expecting. Harder in the respect that those first 5 days, I'd say, the first 5 days after giving birth, they were hard. They were much harder than I expected. I was in way more pain than I expected I would be. Literally, I struggled to get off of the bed and go to the toilet, which is why I spent 4 days in hospital. I don't know how women were standing up and leaving hospital 24 hours later. I don't understand. Because I genuinely couldn't do it. I barely could get to the toilet. I was crouched right over, I was tiptoeing, I was walking so slowly, and it felt like I was trying to climb Mount Everest, just trying to go to the toilet after having her. So how women were just standing up and walking out is just absolutely crazy to me. However, after 5 days, this is where I was quite surprised, because I did panic at first. I was like, oh my gosh, is this how bad it's going to be for like 12 weeks? People say your recovery can take 12 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Is this how bad it's going to be? However, after 5 days, literally 5 days, I'd say between day 5 and 10, so between day 5 and 10, I pretty much felt back to normal. I feel like my recovery was, whilst it was really bad to start with, I turned a corner very quickly. I know some people say, like, you know, it took me like 3 or 4 weeks to start feeling better. No, after 5 days, I was starting to feel better. And by day 10, I felt like I was completely back to normal. Like, I was running up the steps, I was going out for days out, and I just felt really good in myself very quickly. So that's one really good thing. I did recover really quickly. I'm week now. I'm 5 weeks today. It's been 5 weeks and I feel completely back to normal. Like I just feel like my normal self. So the recovery for me was hard in the first few days, but very, very quickly felt good again and back to normal. On the actual day of the caesarean section, I know we did vlog this, so you guys have seen a lot of what happened. There's a few things that we didn't film. Nothing went wrong, or there was no reason why we didn't film it. Basically, we just were just in the moment. But the only time I felt anxious during the actual caesarean section was when I was in the room and they were preparing me for the caesarean. Number one, when I walked into the room, there was way more people than I expected. There was literally like 10 people in there, and I don't know why, but I was just expecting maybe a surgeon and one other person to grab the baby as he passed her out. I don't know why I was expecting that. I've not had surgery before, so I wasn't aware of what happened. But there was literally like 10 people in the room, and they're all introducing themselves. I'm the surgeon, I'm his assistant, I'm this, I'm their assistant. Like every person seemed to be like them and then their assistant. The only really time I felt anxious though was when they were inserting my cannula. I know I've said before, and I know I did say on the vlog, that I am very hard to cannulate. My veins are very small, and I always have so much trouble being cannulated. And this surgeon was like, I'm really good at it, you know, it's not the surgeon, the anaesthetist, sorry. He was like, you know, it's what I do, I'm very good at it, don't worry. They put cream on my hand, bless them, because I was like, I'm really scared. And he got the cannula in my left hand straight away. First time, the cannula went straight in, and I was so chuffed. I was like, oh, I can't believe it. The cream at the initial site worked. I swear I think my cannulas are so painful because my veins are so small, and the cannula they're trying to use is too big. Anyway, the initial site going in was not painful at all because I had the cream on, but as he was going up the vein, it was really tender. But it was done, and I was happy. I was like, it's okay, I can cope, it's done. And then he got his assistant to put some like saline in to flush it through, just to make sure it was all... I can't even talk about this because it makes me feel so queasy. Like my stomach's rolling just talking about it. But he got her to flush the cannula. And as she did it, as she flushed it through, this big bubble on my hand, it just swelled here. Oh, it's so disgusting to talk about. But basically, it was obviously not in correctly. And so the big syringe of fluid, saline, she'd just flushed through. Instead of just flushing through up the vein, it collected in one spot here. And it was just this big swollen, boggy swelling. It was absolutely disgusting. And I'm not gonna lie, at that moment, I had a bit of a panic. I was like, oh my gosh, oh, I couldn't even look at it. It was disgusting. They were like, don't panic, it's fine, don't panic. And it wasn't a big deal. It was only a bit of fluid. It wasn't a big deal. But it just, I don't know why, it just turned me so sick. My stomach started turning. I was like, suddenly started having not a panic attack or anything like that. I was just suddenly like, this is a bit scary. I started shaking a bit. I started panicking a little bit. But they were like, it's fine, don't worry. And then his assistant was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then he said, just massage it, just rub it like this, massage it, and it'll go back down. And I was sat there cringing so bad. But that was the only part of the caesarean that I felt really like, oh, this is not good. When they were actually doing the caesarean, there was a lot more pulling. You guys told me it's like a washing machine. One thing I don't think I was quite prepared for was the feeling of someone pushing their whole body weight onto me, and I'm not sure what they were doing in their moments, but it felt like he was literally pushing his whole body weight onto my stomach to push. But that was the only time during the whole process, those two times, where I felt a little bit like, oh, what's going on here? But yeah, I've recovered really, really well. Like I said before, my scar I've had absolutely no problems with whatsoever. There's been no like infection or pain or tenderness. Sometimes I did feel like in the first few, well, it still does it now actually sometimes. If I overdo it, if I'm like walking around a lot, if I've had like a really busy day where I've been out all day, or sometimes it gets sore, and it's really hard to explain because it's not sore on the outside, kind of feels sore on the inside. And it has actually gone red on the outside a couple of times, but it feel like a stingy, it's like a sting hurt, not like a throb or anything like that. It's more like a sting, but it felt like a sting from the inside. So I was like, my stitches are hurting, but not on the outside, kind of on the inside. But they're healing really well. I've had no type of infection, no real soreness, just on normal, regular, daily basis. And you can barely see it, like it's insane. It's so small. Well, it's not massive at all, but it kind of looks like when you've lent on something and it just goes a bit pink. It's just amazing how they can do such a big thing and then just make it look like pretty much nothing's happened. Chris just came in and reminded me of a couple of things because I genuinely have brain fog at the minute. Like, I don't feel like... What was that? Isla. I don't feel like I've ever had brain fog with any other children like I've got with this one. Like I actually got a bit of health anxiety about it because it's really bad. But Chris just reminded me of a couple of things that I'd forgotten about initially. Also, whilst I was in the theatre room and they were trying to get the spinal in my back, I kept having this horrible electric shock feeling. I know that some people say it can go down your leg. It kind of went like down my leg a little bit, but it was right in my back and it felt like someone was literally putting live wires on a nerve in my back. It was like the most horrendous, like jolty, and it was just so weird and it was a horrible feeling and he kept stopping and saying, is it doing it now? And I'm like, yeah, it's still doing it. And then I think he said he needed to put extra fluid in. He was like, I need to put more in because obviously it's not working in the way it should do. And I think because they put so much in, no, I don't think this was a reason of them putting so much in. I think this would have happened even if I'd just had the initial bit. But afterwards, I had like a big reaction to it where I was itching so bad. It was horrendous. I can't explain this itching, and it lasted for like a whole day, a whole 24 hours, maybe even into 48 hours. And it was it was probably the worst part for me, to be honest, because there was just nothing I could do to stop this itching. And part of the places I was itchy, like some parts of my back, I couldn't even reach and get to. And I found that really, really difficult. So that's one thing to expect, maybe, if anybody's looking to have a cesarean section. The itching was just absolutely horrendous. And another thing that I found really difficult post-delivery as well was if you're choosing to breastfeed, it's very hard to get your baby in and out of their crib. It's very hard to push yourself up. It's very hard to have them on you whilst you're recovering from a cesarean. I really did struggle, which is why I stayed in hospital for the 4 days, because it is really difficult. And I found the beds in the hospital that you could push them to sit up, lower them to the floor, make them a bit higher. I found all that really, really helpful. But that's another thing I wasn't quite expecting, especially straight after having her when she wanted feeding and I was completely numb. Like, the numbness lasted a long time with me. I was in bed for like at least 18 hours before I got out and went to the toilet, because my legs were just completely numb. And it was really hard to push myself up and get into a position that I was able to breastfeed her, which is why I think I suffered with a really bad broken nipples, basically, especially on my left side. Like it was cut the whole way around for like the first 2 weeks of her life, something like that. And I'm sure it was because that first 2 days in hospital I couldn't get her on properly because I couldn't move. So that's obviously another thing to bear in mind as well. And then finally, just with my experience of a cesarean, I think this is finally, unless I forgot anything else, but finally, whilst now I'm feeling great and fully recovered, pretty much back to normal, my left butt cheek is numb still, totally numb. It's kind of like on the bottom of my back. It's like a space probably as big as the palm of my hand. It's kind of like at the bottom of my back / top of my bum, and it's the most horrible feeling ever. So it's numb, but when I say it's numb, I don't mean it's numb so I just don't notice it. It's numb, so when I touch it lightly, I can't feel anything. But I always get itch there, so you know, like when you get an itch, but when I try to scratch it and itch it, it doesn't give you the, you know, you get like a nice pleasure when you itch yourself. It's not like it hurts. So when I try and scratch it, if it itches, it's like I'm touching raw nerve or something, and it actually hurts. And when like Chris, because Chris always like rubs my back, or, you know, he'll come up to me and rub it, and I'm like, no, don't rub it there. It's the most horrendous feeling. It's not a big deal, and I'm sure over time it'll probably get better, but I wasn't expecting like 5 weeks later to still have a palm-sized patch on my back that was feeling like that. This seating position is really good for vlogging because there's light over here and it's really nice. It's really calm and nice, but sat on the floor gives me pins and needles so bad. Right, so I've been asked this question quite a lot. I know lots of you guys are interested and wondering how I'm feeling on this side of things, so I thought I'd quickly touch upon it here. I'm not going into detail because it's very private to me, it's very raw still. I get very emotional when I talk about it, so I'm only gonna step on it, basically, tiptoe onto it. When I had my caesarean section, we decided that I would have my tubes tied, because I have a husband who is a little wuss and won't have a snippercectomy. We decided, whilst I was having a caesarean, it would be easy for me to just have my tubes tied. Now, I'm just going to very quickly say that I feel like I made the wrong decision doing that. I feel like no women should be able to make that I understand it might work for some women, but I do feel like in such a vulnerable, high hormonal moment in your life, it's difficult to make a decision like that and not regret it or not feel differently at some point about it. I just don't feel like, because having your tubes tied is such a minor surgery, I feel like it's something that shouldn't be offered during a caesarean section, due to my own personal experience. And I know that lots of you guys have also reached out when I touched up about this straight after birth, saying you felt exactly the same and you agree that this is probably not something that should be done during a caesarean section. When a woman's already so vulnerable, her emotions are all over the place, she doesn't know how she's going to feel maybe in 6 weeks' time. And it's such a big life-changing decision that I feel like you should have a completely clear head when you make this decision. And that's just my personal view. I know lots of you guys agree with that as well, and there's probably some that don't agree, and that you had your tubes tied during a caesarean and you don't regret it one bit, and it was easy because you got it done all in one. Me personally, I found out maybe 10 days before I had my caesarean that I was having a caesarean, so all of my decisions were made very quickly. And obviously at the time I felt like it was the right decision for us as a family, but I'd be lying if I didn't say and admit to saying I did feel influenced heavily from outsiders. And I know I should never ever do that, and I felt really angry at myself for a few weeks after having Aurora for letting anybody's decision that's not myself or Chris influence, or my children, influence such a life-changing decision, because nobody pays for my children except me and Chris. Nobody has responsibilities for my children, to look after them, to have them overnight, to babysit, except me and Chris. In fact, me and Chris have our children 365 days a year and have done since they were born. They go nowhere, and we don't rely on anybody to have them ever. So there really is no reason why anybody at all should be giving negative opinions on any aspect of mine and Chris's parenting decisions. And I feel really angry that I did let people influence my decision. And I feel like maybe that's slightly even part of why I regretted it so badly in those first couple of weeks, and why I was so emotional. Obviously hormones did play a big part as well, but yeah, basically. So if you guys watched that vlog, which I know most of you will have done, you'll know exactly how I felt. And whilst my emotions right now are not quite as raw as they were then, obviously we're 5 weeks later, I still do feel the same like I did then. I still regret doing it. I still have regrets. Was it like the day after? It was like the day I got home, you called those clinics, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the day after I got home, I felt so bad. I literally cried for I cried solid for like 3 days, right?
Oh, longer than that.
Yeah, but I mean like proper cried a lot of the day for like 3 days. And then I do kind of feel like they was a part of that were my hormones and part of that was how I was feeling. But then after that, I'd still cry like once a day for like a week or something. But but then since then, I haven't cried at all about it. But just because I've not cried about it, I still have that feeling there when I think about it, which is why I don't think about it. It's stupid to think about right now, because I don't know if this sounds crazy, but when I think about it, I feel like I have to give myself a decision. So when I start thinking, I kind of go into this panic mode where I need to make a decision right now, and I need to decide what I'm doing, and I need to plan, and I need to, all of these stupid things that actually I don't need to think about right now. I don't need to plan anything right now. I don't need to decide anything or answer any questions or anything like that. Aurora's only 5 weeks old, and even if I still felt like this, nothing would be acted on. I wouldn't want another child, basically is what I'm saying, for at least 12, 18, 24 months. So why at 5 weeks old do I need to torture myself thinking about it right now? Which I found very healing, thinking about it this way, basically. So in the first couple of days after I came home from hospital, I was feeling so bad that Chris called around about 5 different clinics to speak to specialists, basically. Let me move you back because I've got really bad pins and needles and I need to sit up. To speak to specialists obviously you can't have a reversal done on the NHS, it has to be done privately. And Chris spoke to 5 highly recommended clinics in the UK, basically. And then there was one clinic that was like the best. So we're not just looking at the best reviews for like the clinic's best reviews, we were looking at like the best reviews for tubal reversal success rates. I know saying this out loud to some of you guys, you're going to be like, are you crazy? Like, are you actually crazy? And I don't know, even if having the reversal is because I need to feel like I've got the choice back, I don't even feel like it's because I have a desperate need for another baby. I don't think that's the reason. It's more that I need to reverse a decision I made based on other people's opinions on my own body. So I feel like I've damaged my own body to please other people, and I need to reverse that. That's where I'm at with it at the minute. So we called around all these clinics, we got a consultation booked for like 2 weeks later, and that's when I started to feel better, basically. Knowing that I had the choice back, knowing that I had the hope back, knowing that someone was going to help me. And the guys all of the clinics that we spoke to were all like, you know, the success rate is very, very high because of your age, because it's only just been done, because of the tubal reversal that I had done. There's different ways to tie your tubes, basically. Clips and burning them and tying them. And basically the one that I had done is the easiest one to reverse, blah, blah, blah. Now we ended up cancelling that consultation because I actually didn't feel ready to go, and it felt like it was too soon, and I kind of just wanted to put it out of my head for the reasons that I said before. Like, why am I rushing into this right now when I've only got like a 3-week-old baby, when I should just be enjoying her? But knowing that I have that appointment there just made me feel good. My feelings on it now are still pretty much the same. However, I'm not putting any pressure on myself. I'm enjoying Aurora, my baby girl, and I'm just going to wait and see, basically. I know I have the option to have the reversal done if I want it doing. It is quite an expensive procedure. How much was it? Was it like 5,500? Something like that. And I do feel so lucky that we are lucky enough to be in a position to be able to do that, because I know there's so many, like I was saying to Chris, imagine if I'd have done this 10 years ago, when we would definitely not have been in a position to be able to pay for a reversal. And I don't know if I'd have got through those early days not knowing that I had a positive outcome that could come of it, like a solution, because honestly it's the only thing that as soon as I had that solution, as soon as I was told I had this solution and I could do this, and Chris was reassuring me, stop worrying about it, you've got this solution. And I kept saying, like, I feel like I've made the biggest mistake of my life. And he kept saying, no, you haven't. You made this decision, and you had to make this decision, and everything happens for a reason. And you made this decision to show yourself what really matters and what's important. And there is a solution. It's not the end. There is a solution to it. And as soon as I felt like that, those big, massive, strong emotions I was feeling disappeared. I was like, okay, that's fine. And it all, not like, I say disappeared, I don't mean I suddenly was like, okay, let's just crack on with happy life then. But I just felt like a big weight had been lifted, and I felt good knowing that I did have a solution there if I want to take that solution. But at the minute, I know that I don't want to take that solution right now. Right now, I'm happy just enjoying my baby girl. But knowing that that solution's there in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, we'll cross that bridge, basically, when we come to it. Can't you anyway? Yeah, you've got to wait at least 10 weeks, we've been told. But, you know, who knows? When I get in 10 weeks, that's another 5 weeks' time. Who knows how I'll feel back? Who knows how I'll feel then? You know, every day I feel differently. And I don't mean every day I feel differently in the respect that one day I don't want them doing. I don't mean that. I just mean it's not so heavy on me. So that's that. I just said I'm really quickly going to touch on it. I'm sure I've just talked about it for 10 minutes solid. So I put a question on Instagram, a little question box up. I wasn't actually expecting such a wide range of questions, but lots of people have asked a few questions that I've already been vlogged about. So one here, don't want to be rude, but why did you have a caesarean section? There is a whole vlog on that on our channel, so I won't go over all of that again here. Why did you pick Aurora's name? If you go to the name reveal vlog, there's also everything explained there on why we chose Aurora's name. Loads of people are asking how Mila is with the baby. If I can insert a little video here, I will. I need to crop it because it's not appropriate to put online on the whole video. But if I can crop the bottom, if I can crop the video, then I'll insert it. But if not, I'm just going to give you a quick. She is just so obsessed. She loves the baby so much. Her and Jace run up to her all the time and baby, baby, and they're always asking to hold her. They hold her multiple times a day. They're not they're sometimes a little bit overwhelming because they like to get right in her face, both of them. So all three of the heads are like crushed together. I'm like, whoa, be careful. But they're not overwhelming in the fact that they're constantly on her. Like, they do play and still obviously get on with their everyday activities, but there's no jealousy whatsoever, and they literally just adore her so much. I'm actually really excited for them to, like, I'm not wishing any days away, but I am excited for seeing another little trio running around together, because Jace and Mila are like, they're just the best of friends. It's so heartwarming to watch Jace and Mila because they just adore each other so much, and they play together all day, and it's just so lovely. And I'm just kind of excited to see how that will be when Aurora's also able to run around and play with them. Someone's also asked if I homeschool my children, as they are considering doing it with theirs. I will do a homeschooling vlog, I think, soon, because I've got loads of questions about this recently. I honestly feel like homeschooling is on the rise. The amount of messages I get now about homeschooling is through the roof daily. Just asking for advice and saying that you want to take your children out, asking what resources we use, things like that. So I probably will do we do homeschool, yes, and I'll probably do an update on that very, very soon, because I do get that asked all the time. There's been a few questions. I've just noticed one question pop up saying, does Aurora have a nickname like your other children? So she does. Her nickname is Aura. There's been a few questions asking, is her name Aurora or is it Aura? I keep hearing you say both. Again, watch her name reveal, and that's all explained on there. I'll leave it down below. There's been quite a few questions about Aurora's blood test. Can you tell me, the gender. Could you tell me what company you used for Aurora's gender blood test, please? So we used a company called Sneak Peek. We also used it with, no we didn't. It's the first time we've used it. It's Katrina we used it with. My sister used it. We didn't use it with our previous two children because we had the NIPT test, which included the gender at the same age, same gestation as what the Sneak Peek's used from. So the Sneak Peek blood test, I'm pretty sure you can use it from 6 weeks pregnant. It's actually crazy how early you can find out the gender of your baby. And it's really, really cool. It looks for the Y chromosome in your blood, basically, because only males carry that chromosome. And if you have the Y picked up in your blood, then that means you're carrying a boy. And if there's no Y chromosome there, then obviously that means you're carrying a girl. So Sneak Peek is the one that we used. I know that some people have said that it was wrong for them. It's such a hard test to do. You have to make, especially if you've got boys in the house or your partner's in the house, you have to properly clean, sterile all the surfaces, because it's really easy to pick up their DNA if you don't do that. But it's always been right for us via blood test. The NIPT test works in the exact same way. So it's looking for the Y chromosome. If that's in your body at all, it's obviously not from you because you're not male. So that would mean you're carrying a boy. Definitely recommend it. We really enjoyed finding out the gender of our last 3 babies. Our first 3 babies were all surprises, and I kind of low-key feel like I preferred finding out. I liked being able to prepare. I liked being able to pick a name. I felt like I bonded more with my pregnant belly, knowing the gender and knowing what they'd be called, etc. And then I think this is a super long video, so I'm going to end it by answering this last question. Did you want a big family when you were younger? I just have always wondered. No, I didn't. I did not want a big family when I was young. In fact, I always said I'd just have 2 children. And funnily enough, like I said about the tubes tie-in, doing things for other people, I've always said after every one of my children, this is the last one, with Isabel, I did it. And she was only my first baby. So we'd often, I think it's just like one of those questions that everyone asks when you've had a baby, you having any more? And even with Isabel, I have never had the guts to say, yeah, we might have one more. I don't know why. I don't know why I've never had the guts to say it, ever. And I've always felt like I need to say, nope, definitely not having no more. I've always felt like that, even with Isabel. So when I had Isabel and people would ask, I'm like, nope, she's going to be an only child. And then when we had Esme, nope, just having these 2. And then we had Isla. It's always been the same. I don't know why I have this negative spin on saying, yeah, we might have another child. Like, I feel really naughty saying that. I don't know why. And I didn't want a big family. We got the 3 girls. Me and Chris did always say that it would be so lovely to have 3 girls when we first got together. And we were so lucky and fortunate enough to be able to do that quite quickly and easily. And then we were done. And I feel like we were done for society. Like I say, I never felt like I could say we'd have any more. But at the time, it was definitely the right choice for us because our situation, we couldn't financially afford to have more children. Not in the respect that, and I sometimes feel like this is where people forget, not in the respect that I couldn't afford nappies or we wouldn't be able to feed them or we might not get a holiday each year. It wasn't that. It was more we couldn't afford a new car, a bigger car, because obviously when you go from 3 to 4 children, you can't have a regular five-seat car. We were in a 3-bedroomed house and, you know, I feel like obviously me and Chris took up one of those rooms, and if we would have had a boy, then that would have meant all 3 girls sharing, and the rooms weren't very big and we weren't our own house, we were renting, and I just didn't feel like we'd have fit into that house, and it was more that we couldn't afford it aspect side. And then obviously I've always said the biggest gift that YouTube and you guys watching these videos has given us is our children, our 3. I can't believe we've got 3 more children. Is Jace, Mila and Aurora, because if YouTube hadn't have taken off and our financial situation didn't change, then we would not have been in a position to have more children. And then suddenly I just craved a big family and I just wanted to have a big family, and it was a really weird feeling. When I had Isabel, Esme and Isla, and people say having more, and I'd reply straight away with, no, we're not having any more. I don't know if that's because I genuinely felt like I didn't want more, but I don't know if I was subconsciously saying that because I felt like I'd conditioned my own mind that that was the right thing to say. I did genuinely feel like that. I wasn't like lying when I was saying it. But I don't know if that's because I don't know if I'm making sense here. I don't know if that's because I was subconsciously telling myself this is the right decision. rather than actually thinking about what do I actually want. Because when I had Jace, when I gave birth to Jace, very quickly afterwards, weeks, he was like weeks old, whilst people would say, is he your last? And I'd say, yeah, he's definitely the last. I knew, and I didn't. I said to one of my friends at the time, I know he's not my last. I could literally have 10 more babies right now. Like, he was only a couple of weeks old and I wanted another baby straight away with him. And then that kind of, as he got a little bit older, I kind of thought, is that the right decision? I'm not too sure actually. And then he got over a year old and I was like, oh, maybe he should be the last. So obviously then Chris was starting to say, should we have another one so that Jason's got a playmate? And I was like, no. But was it because I'm conditioned my own mind to think that was because that's what I should be saying? Because then obviously I did want Mila and I got pregnant with Mila. And then I did want Aurora and I got pregnant quickly with Aurora. And now I feel like now, this is why I feel so different, and it's so weird to me and such a bizarre feeling, because now I feel like I could have 10 children and be completely content and happy. And I've always told myself, no, I want a small family, I don't want a big family. But now I feel like, I don't know if it's because I'm older and I'm more mature and I feel like I'm a different parent, and no better and no worse, but just a different parent now. I feel different in myself with regards to being a mother. And I don't feel like I have to keep saying no, or being embarrassed that I've got a big family. Like, I feel proud of my family. I feel so proud that I've got 6 children. And I feel, I don't know, it's a really weird feeling. I don't know if it's because I had this tube tying thing has just made me realise, like, what's important. Like, why are you so worried about other people? Why are you so bothered about what trolls say? Why are you so bothered about what strangers and other people say? And it's just made me feel so much stronger. And so I feel just so much prouder to have a big family now. And, you know, when people have been round and midwives and things, and I've spoken to them about how I feel, and they're like, is this your last one? I'm like, yeah, probably, but who knows, maybe not. And it's just been really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, uplifting, liberating to say that, yeah. That's exactly it, because I never felt like I could say that before. And now, even though Aurora might be our last, I still want to say, no, she's not our last. Just because I feel like I can. It's such a weird feeling. I didn't always want a big family. But maybe I did. And maybe I was just too much worried about what society thinks about large families. Maybe I did always want a big family, I don't know. Maybe just as I've got older, I've realised, listen to yourself. Don't listen to what other people want. Maybe it's that. Anyway, I'm ending that on that note.
So, when's baby number 7 then?
Summer 24, definitely not.
That's a bit too soon.
Think about what you want, IFAM. Don't let other people influence you. I have let other people influence me to a huge extent, and I didn't even realise it. And that is not a lie, and I'm not trying to be dramatic. But people have influenced me my whole life. I always care about what other people think. And I'm at a stage in my life now, at the grand old ripe age of 37, where I don't give 2 Fs about what Tracy down the road thinks. That's a made-up name. There is no Tracy down the road. I don't care what anyone else thinks about me, my family, how many children I have, whether I want more children, whether I don't want more children. And it genuinely took changing my own body for someone else to realise that. Don't let that be you. If you want your tubes tied and it's a decision you've made and you definitely want, go ahead and do it. If you want 20 children, go ahead and do it. Don't listen to society. Don't listen to strangers. Don't listen to people, family, friends who think it's okay to put pressure on you about something that actually has absolutely no relevance on their life. Do what you want to do, you and your family. And I'm ending that on that note. So thank you all so much for watching this little vlog video that's turned into a massive long chat. Chris is going to kill me when he's editing this. It's going to be so... I'm not editing it. It's going to be so long. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you want me to do a homeschooling vlog, I will not be showing the girls' schoolwork. I get questions about this all the time. I'm not showing the girls' schoolwork because it's their private, personal details and information. And no matter how good they do, they either get picked up on their negatives or they get told they're lying. Isabel got a 9 at GCSE English. You can't get a better grade, and we got told she's lying. she got told she's lying. She gets messages all the time saying, why do you lie about your GCSE results? It's really sad. So we won't be sharing any of the girls' information or their schoolwork, but I can do a vlog on homeschooling and things like that. There's loads of information I've got that I could share. So let me know down below if you want me to do that. If you like these chatty vlogs, I always hate filming them because I hate the sound of my own voice. I've said to Chris about 5 times during this is boring. No one's gonna watch this. I sound like monotone. I'm droning. But hopefully you did enjoy it, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for a normal daily vlog at 5 PM. Good night, guys.